Oh, it is finally Friday. I don't know about you, but I'm glad it's here. Finally Friday is being brought to you this week by Major Spoilers VIP and Patreon members from around the world. You can show your support for everything we do at Major Spoilers by pointing your browser to patreon.com/Major Spoilers. Happy Friday, everyone. Let's see what we got going on here. Let's turn that off. How does that sound? Yeah. Anyway. What's going on? I'm hearing an echo of myself. That shouldn't be. You guys hear that? How about if I just do that? There we go. How's that? Better? Good. Oh my goodness, we have made it to the end of another week, and I got to tell you, I am still. I thought I was getting better, but I'm still a little sick today. Very low energy today. But we're going to do this show. And hopefully you will be able to play along and share some of your thoughts. Oh, look, it's Dr. Bradley Will shown up there in the chat. Oh. That can only mean one thing. Trouble on the horizon. Everybody says it sounds good. Okay, well, at least it sounds good. How's everybody doing? Did everybody sit down and watch the first episode of The Mandalorian, Season 2, Episode 9? I like that they're just calling it Episode 9 and not just, Season 2, Episode 1. So it just continues on. And oh my gosh, I don't want to spoil too much, but if you've already seen it, Timothy Olyphant, oh my goodness, does such a great job in this. Also, did we just discover the fate of Boba Fett? Oh. Again, not going to spoil too much. But my youngest sat down to watch it with me, and he really enjoyed it. He had a good time and liked it a lot, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Also, there's a little child in there. And that was fun. So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories. And I've been talking about conspiracy theories for a while and how, at one point it just becomes no fun no more. And so my involvement with conspiracy theories goes way back into the early 90s with a little show called Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Many of you may be familiar with this show. Art Bell was a talk show host overnight, AM radio, and he would dive into the paranormal, into the spooky, into the bizarre. And he came up on my radar, so probably about 95, during the Heaven's Gate cult. Right? These people that, there's a really good podcast that goes into all the minutia of the Heaven's Gate cult, but essentially, towards the end of the cult, the guy was like, hey, there's the Hale-Bopp comet is coming, and there's something in the tail of the comet, as reported on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. And so that was the Great Uplifting, or whatever that was going on. And these people murdered themselves, committed suicide, cult suicide, because they thought that they were going to ascend to the Martian spaceship or whatever it was. And so Art Bell got a lot of flack for that, and that's where he kind of popped up on my radar. And it's like, oh, what is this, Art Bell? Let me listen to this. And if you listen to Art Bell in the early 90s, mid 90s, until he walked out in, was it 99, 98, 99, something like that, the first time, you were greeted with all sorts of fascinating tales in the paranormal, right? Of course, you got your Bigfoot tales, Sasquatch running around, the guy that claimed that he shot a Sasquatch and had it buried and didn't want to tell anybody because he was afraid that he might be sent to jail for murder as opposed to just hunting an animal. That was interesting. There was a guy who was walking in the woods, and he stumbled upon a spaceship and a gray alien that killed his dog, and so he beat it to death with a stick or something, and then he didn't know what to do with it, so he wrapped it in one of those aluminum foil blankets that you wear for warmth, and he put it into his freezer, and then the alien apparently wasn't dead, but came back to life and tried to attack the guy as it was trying to escape. The what is it, the burrito alien, or the alien in the burrito story? And then, of course, you had stories that were all about the moon is hollow. It's actually a satellite monitoring us all of the time. I always enjoyed Richard Hoagland when he came onto the show. Richard Hoagland's big thing in the initial onset, of course, was all about the Cydonia and the face on Mars and the pyramids of Mars. And if you're not familiar with this, it's fascinating because in 1976, Voyager did a flyby of Mars and was taking pictures. And when they were sent back to Earth and they were analyzing them, sure enough, right there in the Martian soil was a giant face. You've probably seen this. And it looks pretty convincing as far as faces go. Let me see if I can bring this up here. There we go. There's the face on Mars, right? And you zoom in far enough, and the next thing you know, you can see pyramids, and you can see, canals. But Richard Hoagland would always come on and say that this was proof that there was always life on Mars, but what happened to it, maybe it's in hibernation. Maybe they all died, but they've left ancient alien technology on the surface that we just have to go to and find out. And I can't remember exactly how his conspiracy theory went, but it was something about the angle of where Cydonia was on Mars, the pyramid and the face on Mars, was something like at 33 1/3 or 33 degrees or something like that is where it was on the surface of Mars, or where it is on the surface of Mars. And so he was then about a year or two into his whole mission to prove that there was something on Mars that NASA and the government was hiding. He was convinced that the Illuminati were part of this. Because, if you're going to be the highest level of the Masons, of the Illuminati, you're going to be a 33rd degree Mason. He even went so far at one point, and this was my favorite part. Some of you may be old enough to remember this. A store called Old Navy where you can buy clothes fairly on the cheap. But back in the late 90s, they used to have a 1995 sale. You could go in and buy a pair of jeans or a t-shirt or something for like $19.95. And they wouldn't run these all the time. They used to run them like once a month or something like that, every so often. They would run these 1995 sales. And Richard Hoagland was convinced that was a secret Illuminati meeting, because 1/2 of 33, or however his calculation was 19.95. And so he was convinced that every time that you saw one of those sales at the Old Navy, you could go in, and if you told them that you were here for the meeting, they would usher you into a back room where you could sit down and watch a meeting about what was going on at Cydonia, and the fact that maybe there was a portal that was already opened that you could go to Mars, and that we were already there unearthing all of these alien artifacts. And it was always crazy when Richard Hoagland would come on, because people would argue with him about whether this was real or not, or they had their own theories, and of course he would have none of that stuff from anybody. And then, of course, we got a high-res version of the face on Mars a few years later. In the corner, you can see the original 76 image, which, does look like a face. Of course, our minds and our human minds like to see faces in everything. That's why you look at the electrical outlet and you can see a face. You can look at the back of a car, you can see a face. Scott McCloud did a whole thing in Understanding Comics about faces and things. And then, of course, the high-res image came back and we got this. And then, you know, Hoagland had to backtrack and try to figure out, oh, that's not really what it is. There's been a lot of, this proves that there's weather on Mars and that there's rapid deterioration of the environment, erosion on there, and that's why the face has been pulled down, or, you know, that the sandstorms have been kicked up and have covered the Martian monument. Or that someone at NASA was secretly airbrushing this photo to hide the fact that you could see machinery on the face of Mars. Oh, it was a good time to listen to Coast AM. Some of the other great moments, of course, is any time that Art would bring on some ghost hunters, and you would have the reverse speech and the ghost stuff. A lot of that stuff is still popular today. But at some point for me, Coast to Coast AM got rather boring, and that would probably be somewhere in the 2000, 2002 after Art quit for the second or third time in a row. And you had, I'm not a big fan of George Norrie, I'll be honest. And I know some of you are fans of George Norrie, but just kind of got boring. It got not fun. You know, Art was one of those that would like sit back and be like, oh, so you've got an alien in your freezer. What are you going to do with it? Can you get us photos? Can you describe it for me? And of course, Art was like, you know, always somebody that was like, yes, and playing along with these people that would call in with their crazy conspiracy theories or their crazy stories. George Norrie is kind of the one that sat back and go, nah, I don't believe it. Nah. And so it really quickly became not fun, at least for me, and probably for a lot of other people as well. One of the biggest things that came out of Coast to Coast AM was this guy who came on and said that would tell these stories about Bohemian Grove. And Bohemian Grove was this place where the elites of the world will come and meet. It's like a camp up in the California woods, I believe. And they would go up there and they would hold their secret meetings, and they would sacrifice things to some spirits. And that's where they would come and meet and do their New World Order planning. And this guy came on first to talk about the history of it and what was going on. And then he came back another time to talk more about the Bilderbergs. I think that's who it is. And how they were secretly trying to take over the world and build concentration camps around the world and get ready to enslave us all. And then the time that he actually snuck in to the Bohemian Grove and was chased out. And he's got these recordings of him running through the woods. And how for just a few more dollars that people could send him, he could continue his quest to take down the New World Order. And that man was Alex Jones. Yeah, Alex Jones, primarily on the Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, but on a number of other conspiracy shows that were going on at the same time, some a little more anti-Semitic than others. Alex Jones would appear and spout his crazy conspiracy theories, and we can see where that has led to today. Alex Jones's InfoWars. And some of the crazy stuff that he has come up with, right? I mean, Alex Jones has been sued because of claims that he made. He's been banned from Facebook and Apple iTunes. He's been banned from, I forget where else, YouTube. But he's still out there doing his Alex Jones thing. And some people really dig on Alex Jones. But about that time, when Alex Jones was on spouting New World Order stuff and talking about how you can find the spider and the owl in your dollar bills, which you can, sure. That's about the time where I was like, there's something not right here. There's something not right going on with all these conspiracy theories out there. And they're a little disturbing. And so maybe it's time for me to be a little bit more grounded in reality and move away from people who are... this was the thing. It got to the point where it was clear that the people were calling in to ask questions or to respond to whatever the host or the guest was that week, that the people were actually believing the stuff as opposed to people calling in and having fun and asking questions or going, oh, that sounds so spooky. Where can I write away for more information kind of stuff? When people actually started to really, really, really believe some of the conspiracy stuff that was going on Coast to Coast and other places, that's when I was like, oh, this is a little bit too weird now. It stopped being fun and started being a little bit creepy. But I've never been able to actually differentiate where that point is when it comes to conspiracy theories. Now, here's some interesting things. I'll go through some of my favorite conspiracy theories. Obviously, Richard Hoagland and Face on Mars. I could listen to repeats of that, and I actually do have. At one point, I had all of the Coast to Coast episodes from like 1992 to about 2004, all archived, so I could listen to them at any time. But I still have the Richard Hoagland stuff. I still have a lot of the early Coast to Coast stuff. And it's still crazy. I still love listening to Richard when he goes off on that stuff. But believe, here's a chart. This is coming from statista.com, statista.com. Belief in conspiracy theories in the United States. Percentage of U.S. adults that they say they somewhat or strongly believe in the following conspiracy theories. Now, here's a classic conspiracy theory, right? People still will argue this, and this is one of those that's somewhat kind of fun to mess around with. Heck, they even did a whole movie about it, starring O.J. Simpson. What was it called? Capricorn 1. The moon landing was faked. 11% of U.S. adults say that is somewhat or strongly believe that the moon landing was faked. And apparently, if you go up to, is it Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin, which one of them, you ask him if it was fake, he'll punch you in the face. Another one that kind of got me, it's really weird because one of the I shouldn't say one of the fun things. One of the scary things about conspiracy theories is that all somebody has to do is recognize a pattern and get that pattern into people's minds so that they start noticing it as well. Like, for example, if I tell you not to think about a purple elephant, all you want to do is start thinking about a purple elephant. And if I tell you, if you look up in the sky and you know those jet trails that come off the back of jets because of the hot engine meeting the cold air, and you see those lines in the sky, if you pay attention, you'll notice that pretty soon a grid will start to appear over the sky, and eventually the sky will become overcast because of all these chemicals that these airplanes are putting up in the air to control us. The chemtrail conspiracy. The government is using chemicals to control the population. The chemtrails conspiracy. 19% of adults say that they somewhat or strongly believe that is actually happening. Now, I'm a big fan of the Illuminatus trilogy. I love it. I think it's a great piece of humor, but it's also got a lot of good conspiracy in there, where you can find patterns and you can find historical references to these things, and you can get into a deep dive. Believe me, anytime I've bought and purchased anything by Robert Anton Wilson, I always pay cash because I don't want my credit card attached to any of that stuff in case the government actually is tracking you down, right? But 21% of Americans say that they, and again, this is adults, say that they strongly believe that the Illuminati is secretly in control of the world. And that one's kind of a fun conspiracy, right? You learn the secret handshake, you go to the Mason Lodge, you start working your way up. Maybe you'll get to go to a old Navy Illuminati meeting. But then we get into something that's maybe a little bit more disturbing. Climate change is a hoax. 22% of people believe that climate change is a hoax. Or 23% of Americans, adults, say that 9/11 was an inside job. Yeah, definitely after 2001. Some of the stuff on those overnight conspiracy shows started to get a little darker. Another fun one that I always had fun with, in fact, there's a great episode of Coast to Coast AM that a guy actually calls in while he is flying into Area 51. Area 51, the place where the government is hiding all the aliens and the alien UFOs. That's a fun one to kind of have fun with, right? 27% of Americans say that they believe in that. And again, that was fun back in the day where you didn't have satellite flyovers or the satellite data wasn't made available. It was a no-fly zone. You heard that it was a secret military base. You didn't know what was out there. People start coming forward and talking about working on UFOs and being inside those UFOs. And if you were to track out there and climb the top of the hill, you'd see all sorts of weird lights. And then, of course, that tied into the Arizona lights, the Phoenix lights, and that event. But then the government finally had to come clean and say, look, yes, there are these high-resolution photos of Area 51. And one of the reasons why they had to come forward and say that, yes, Area 51 actually exists is because a lot of people ended up suing the government because of illegal dumping of toxic materials that caused a bunch of people to die, workers to die at Area 51. And so they had to open this up through records, and satellite photos were starting to become apparent. And so at that point, the government's like, yeah, we do secret testing out there. Of course, we're not going to tell you what's going on out there all these years. The Cold War is preventing us from sharing that data. But man, just a couple of years ago, there were thousands of people who were willing to rush Area 51, even if it meant being gunned down by the military, to free those aliens. And somewhere between, here's a guy flying in to Area 51 and being shot down on a radio show, and people willing to go and run into a hail of bullets to go and free the aliens. Something's getting weird there. Now, I got to be careful on the next one, because I'm sure this will get me bleeped by YouTube or somebody, or Twitch. This is according to this website. There is a deep state working against U.S. President Donald Trump and his supporters. 29% of the people believe that. And then probably the greatest conspiracy of them all, Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone in assassinating JFK. It was the commies working with the mob, working with the CIA, working with LBJ to take down JFK. 47% of people, and this is as of, what is the date on this? This is May of 2019. 47% of the people still believe that Lee Harvey Oswald was not the lone nut. And there's all sorts of other fun, what I consider fun conspiracy theories that are out there. The one that is most recent that just blew my mind, that the Audubon Society actually had to cover in an article, was a recent conspiracy theory that all birds in the world, are not real. Think about that for a second. Every single bird in the world, at some point in the 1960s and the 70s, the CIA destroyed every single bird in the world, probably with their chemtrails, and replaced all of those birds with government-issued drones to spy on us. What's the source of this survey? Is it from an org that you would expect to follow proper polling protocols? I don't know. I'm just reading this off of off that site that I mentioned earlier. But are birds actually government-issued drones? And that's the theory, that apparently a bunch of birds took craps all over the CIA cars in the 1950s and early 60s. And the CIA was so angry that they figured out that they were going to just kill all the birds and then replace them with drones to follow us around. And this is a story that the Audubon Society had to actually spend precious space on their website discussing. Here's their subtitle. Hatched by a 20-year-old college student, the Birds Aren't Real movement has drawn intrigue and scorn on Instagram, Reddit, and Twitter. It's so crazy. That's when it's like, okay, let's play with this and have fun. And I'm sure maybe that's what this guy's doing. Hopefully he's not really deep into it. Although if you go and look, he's got a whole thing where he's out holding signs that say pigeons are real. Who knows? But here's the thing. So what's another one? What's another crazy conspiracy theory? Chemtrails was always crazy. The JFK assassination, the New World Order. Oh, the Denver airport. Have you guys been out to the Denver airport? It is it's so far out from Denver. They could never figure out why they put it so far away from Denver itself. And the crazy red-eyed horse in the front. And the shapes. And some of the murals that they have inside. that there is apparently so much space underneath the Denver International Airport that that's where the Illuminati and the government go to. And the aliens that are underneath there as well, the lizard men, travel back and forth on high-speed underground systems to the Denver airport. I mean, that's one that you can... I mean, even the Denver International Airport, DIA, has actually gone in and actually started to screw around with people and play into that conspiracy theory to have fun with it. And I suppose sometimes when you go there, I don't know if it's so much there now, but I know about 10 years ago, you could go and they would have little signs that say, you know, secret meeting this way and other things like that. But then you get into some very dangerous conspiracy theories. Pizzagate is a very dangerous conspiracy theory that actually led to some people getting killed. You know, the anti-Semitic pamphlets that go out that talk about how the Jewish people are controlling the world. Those are very dangerous conspiracy theories. And I always, for years, even Bigfoot, I mean, as much as we love the idea of Bigfoot, at some point Bigfoot stops being funny and starts becoming a little bit, I don't know about this. And it wasn't until just a few weeks ago, and maybe about a month ago, that Abby Richards on TikTok came forward with the conspiracy chart. And this clears it all up for me. The point where you actually move from what I would call fun time zone to, okay, this is some dangerous stuff and we need to be paying attention and putting a stop to this crazy talk. So Abby Richards, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. I don't know if I can. So if we start way down here at the bottom, there are some conspiracy theories that have actually been proven true, like MK Ultra. That was a big thing in the 90s too, right? The Bohemian Club that Alex Jones was talking about. The FBI spying on John Lennon. Those are things that have actually come out to be true. Then we get into some conspiracy theories that, you know, we have questions about. You know, is this really true, really happening? UFOs, Area 51, Denver International Airport, Roswell, New Mexico. Then we have this category of, now we're kind of leaving reality. You know, things like crop circles in the Loch Ness Monster, alien abductions, Stonehenge, the face on Mars, all of that stuff starts to get us more detached from reality. And I think it's in this pink zone personally where we start to get into the, okay, we are leaving the fun part of conspiracy theories. And depending on what you're doing, you could go too far down a rabbit hole and actually hurt yourself. And so Abby goes in and she has two more categories. The science denials, you know, the COVID-19 is a conspiracy, chemtrails, 5G, global warming, anti-vaxxers. These are ones where she classifies them as dangers to yourself and others if you really believe in these things. Finland doesn't exist. I forget where the birds are. She actually has it here on the chart somewhere. And that's what made me had to go and look up the fact that that birds not being a thing is really kind of crazy. And then the ones that are the anti-Semitic point of no return starts to get into the QAnon and the George Soros and the New World Order and Pizzagate and Hollow Earth. And I think whenever we look at this chart, I think this is a really good chart. I think she did a fantastic job on this. I think when we look at this chart, we can really start to see, okay, what are things that are harmless? What are things that are really, really dangerous? Now, again, on the surface, the idea that there are people wearing human skins, but underneath there really are reptilian overlords, that may sound like fun on the surface, but there are people who really, really, really believe that if you took off Melania Trump's glasses, you would see lizard eyes underneath. Or the whole group of people that are, you know, denying that the earth is round. Why not? Mother says, if you look at the top of the chart, a lot of those are right-wing theories. Some of them are. And that brings up to the question, are right-wingers more gullible? No, I don't think so. I think just people in general are gullible when they're not faced with facts. And certainly if there's someone that, well, I have a different theory, but it's going to get too many people angry at me if I say it. But the more that people believe, and again, it's right there in the chart, the science denial. Once you start to move past the idea that, oh, science is lying to you or science isn't real, that's when people who are really believing into that and also denying science, that we get into that very dangerous area of what could just be fun stories that you tell around the campfire. Yeah, one day I was out hunting in the woods with my Uncle Pete, and that night we were sitting around the campfire and it got super quiet, and suddenly above us there was this floating thing that made no sound, and the lights were blinking, and it landed in the field next door, and so we walked over and we saw some people come out. Little men in green. And they took a cow and they flew off. I mean, that's fun. That's fun, scary stories, right? But the minute that someone is like, oh yeah, that's totally real. It's happened to me 37 times in the last month. Yeah, I totally believe that. That's when it's like, oh, I don't know. But I'm finally glad that someone has able to kind of illustrate something that I've had a lot of trouble with over the years, trying to figure out, okay, where is that breaking point between harmless fun and super dangerous? And Abby Richards has done this. I would say go follow her on Twitter, Abby ASR, ABBIE-ASR. Go follow her on Twitter. Go follow her on Instagram. You can go find this chart. I think this is a fantastic chart for anyone to have. I think you can make your own speculations out of this if you want. Why not, Mother? Please elaborate on why insane theories like QAnon get a large following. I don't think that they have a large following, right? I think the reason why you think it has a large following is because here's something so crazy and so weird that, you know, some vocal minority is screaming about, that the media is like, hey, this is really weird, let's cover this. And suddenly, because it's on the media that you watch and consume, suddenly you believe it's a big deal. But I think most people will understand that, that's not real. And also the other thing, I think J. Michael T. is getting into it right here. I think it's sometimes easier to believe that they, whoever they may be, are to blame for your problems and shortcomings. Otherwise you are, and that's not something a lot of people can handle about themselves. Yes, let's push the blame on to someone else or something else, or Bigfoot. Let's put all the blame on Bigfoot. Blame it on the cursed relic that you found. Blame it on the ghosts that haunt your mansion. Blame it on some anonymous group. Because then you don't have to put the blame on yourself. All my woes are someone else's fault. And again, that's why Abby drew this line of the anti-Semitic point of no return. That when it's so easy for you to push your problems off to other people and not question things, if you're just someone that nods along with the group, if you're someone that just likes everything on Facebook, if you're someone that's sitting there saying, oh, well, my uncle's cousin's friend's neighbor had a cousin who said that this was real, so therefore it must be real, then that's how a lot of these things spiral out of control. So I guess what the bottom line on all of this is today is that I know we got an election coming up and there's so much disinformation out there, but regardless of what is going on in the world, you need to be more aware of what messages are coming at you, and you need to use that brain between your ears, behind your eyes, and you need to start thinking critically. Is this just harmless fun? Is there some giant Sasquatch living out, ape man, skunk man, whatever he is, skunk ape, living out in the backwoods that no one has ever seen? And at night you can hear him holler, and sometimes he'll come and shake your tent. Maybe you're out looking for the ever elusive snipe. Is that just fun, harmless stuff? Or is there an army of Sasquatches ready to invade our country and we need to be prepared? And I know in those examples, it seems very easy to figure out which one's the fun one and which one is, oh my gosh, somebody needs to go get help. But what about that gray area in between? And can you figure out fact from fiction? I'm just going to close it there right now. I like Abby's chart. It helps clarify a lot of things for me. It helps make things make a lot more sense in this world. And hopefully it does for you too. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was interesting to you. Yep, I think Stephen touched on something with the television media. They really play a role as a signal amplifier. That is true. Well, so I would ask, why not Mother? Why not Mother says it seems to be a particular U.S.-centric issue, conspiracy theory. Here in Europe, that sort of thing is way less prominent. Certainly after World War II, I would think it's a lot less prominent, although, you know, one of the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident is probably one of the biggest talked about UFO incidents in all ufology. And that happened there in Great Britain. Or was it? Yeah, Rendlesham Forest in Great Britain. And I'm pretty sure there's been some big UFO stuff in Germany as well. But yeah, there's some things that hopefully make you think. At least I hope. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. Our pre-Halloween, finally Friday. I hope if you go and have Halloween in your area that you're being safe, wear your masks. Use your lotions, your antiseptics. Check your candy for razor blades. Watch out for devil worshippers who are going to snag you in the middle of the night and sacrifice you to Satan. Could happen. One of my friends in high school, he had a cousin whose sister's best friend bit into an apple that was filled with razor blades, and then she was sacrificed to Beelzebub in the middle of the night. It's all true, man. You guys have a great week. Thank you so much. We will see you again next time when it's finally Friday. But until then, do good, be good. And we'll see you again very soon. Oh, thank you all you awesome people who make this show possible over at patreon.com/majorspoilers. You are all the bomb. Thank you, Why Not Mother. Thank you, Totes Coats, or Coax. Thank you, the one J. Michael T. Thank you, Dr. Bradley Will. Thank you all for coming and hanging out this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow for some game streaming right here on the channel, so come back then. It's group play. You against Major Spoilers.